Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into a special live Hump Day episode of the Pod at the Palace. No. Nobody is committed yet. I know that's usually what happens when we go live, but honestly, Monday between this show and the Bombastic Podcast with Andrew, the John Neighbor Show, we were live essentially the entire afternoon. And it was pretty cool. So we wanted to hop on here and do it again. And quite honestly, the next time you guys see us, we might have a little bit of a different look because things are getting weird. We're making some changes over here at Natty State Sports. We got some exciting things coming, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, we had a lot of fun on Monday, so we wanted to do this again. We are live, so if you got questions, comments, whatever, go ahead and hop on in the chat and throw those out there. But we got a few things that we definitely wanted to talk about and discuss and just see where the day kind of takes us. Scottie, what's going on, brother?
Not a whole lot, man. I'm glad that Bombastic Podcast got through the live, and I will apologize on Andrew's behalf for your Twitter mentions.
Yeah.
Is this team built for the postseason?
That's right. Yeah. By the way, I've already seen a comment in here that was talking about us being late. That is not on us. Okay. We gave Andrew Ellis a 2-hour window to do the Bombastic Podcast, and it wasn't enough for him. The man's got a motor mouth on him. Okay, what are we supposed to do about this?
I've never done a solo pod before, ever. There's a possibility of that happening this weekend, and you will be gone this weekend. And ideally, something would happen when you're just hanging out in the hotel. But then again, you're on vacation. Like, you wouldn't have taken vacation if you were going to work. I'm a little worried. Worry is probably a strong word, but the chat might have to carry me for a little bit. I don't like talking to myself.
Okay.
I'm worried about that, and Andrew can go for 2 hours.
That man lets it fly. You know what I'm saying? Lets it absolutely fly.
Do I need to let Ellis in?
You guys might never get off of the show.
That's a good point.
You know, we'll make it work if something needs to happen.
Maybe Glasscock makes his debut.
Maybe so. Yeah, maybe so. One way or the other, it'll get done. We're hoping that, there's a little action at some point this weekend. And if we're being honest here, and this is a good way to segue right into talking about DJ Wagner, who's visiting this weekend. It's been 4 Mondays in a row, people, where we've had a commitment.
Yeah.
Right? So it was, what we got here? Big Z, then Carter Knox, Jonas Adu, and then Adu Thiero the other day. I know that they're talking about a potential, Florida visit after this for DJ Wagner. I ain't buying it.
Oh, I hadn't even seen that
yet.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it. I think it was Adam Zagori that put that out there.
Okay.
Maybe that's a plan.
I need to turn his tweet note he's on.
Yeah, maybe that's on the docket, but come on now. I don't necessarily see that happening. If Coach Cal's getting him in here for a visit this weekend, I would be disappointed if he's not committed by Monday. You're seeing the crystal balls and the future cast, whatever predictions coming through. And so we'll see what happens there. And if it doesn't happen on Monday, don't freak out. That doesn't mean it's not over with. But, listen, Cal set this precedent, not us. And so we're just trying to connect the dots here, right?
Yeah, for sure. And he's got a 2025 5-star point guard coming on campus
also
this
on
weekend
campus,
too.
yeah, Acuff.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but that could be Boogie's replacement.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a really good point. I saw that the 24/7 Sports rankings there came out, their final update of the class of 2024 rankings came out, and Carter Knox was 20th, and Billy Richmond was 22nd, and Boogie Flan was 26th.
Yeah.
So it kind of flipped in their rankings. But if you look at the composite, which is kind of just a mesh of all the major ranking services, and it takes an average and weighs it out however, then it was actually flipped there with Boogie being the highest, and then Carter Knox, and then Billy Richmond. None of them were 5-star prospects in the 24/7 rankings, but they were all 5 stars in the composite. I would rather be a 5-star in the composite because that means you're valued by the entire industry in such a way. So a pretty good haul there that Arkansas wound up getting from the high score ranks for sure.
No doubt. Yeah, I'm very partial to Billy Richmond, and if y'all listen to the Billy Richmond commitment episode, which is, gosh, that seems like forever ago, man. But Cal hasn't even been here a month yet. I think, what is today, the 8th? Friday,
Yeah.
Friday is going to be 1 month since Cal's been here, and it feels like it's been 2.5, 3 months. He's packed a lot so far into 3+ weeks. If you listen to the Billy Richmond episode, I'm a huge fan of his just because of the level of ball that he played in Jersey. You can get away with like a misdemeanor there,
yeah,
and not get a foul called on you. So I think that kid's going to be physically ready. Boogie is, I think it's just not. I'm repeating stuff that we've said already, but like him paired with Nelly is good. It's like I don't taking nothing away from Boogie, but I think it's always good to have a veteran, been there, done that type of guy to pair in the backcourt with a guy that's fresh to the game.
Agreed.
And then Carter Knox, I'm excited about him. Just have to see how these guys acclimate once they get to campus.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about DJ Wagner a little bit, because I think we agree that as excited as we are about Boogie Fland, they're in the backcourt. I don't know. To me, I might be a little bit more comfortable, even if I think Fland is the best freshman in their class, which I think I feel that way. I feel a little bit more comfortable with freshmen maybe playing on the wing early than I do as the primary ball handler.
Oh, there's so much on your shoulders.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And so we've been talking about it a lot. Just, they really need to go get just a veteran or an experienced ball handler, somebody who's done it in this league or at a high level, to take some pressure off him. That doesn't mean Boogie Fland's not going to have a role. He absolutely is. But you need that kind of presence. DJ Wagner's the guy we've been talking about the most in terms of it just makes so much sense from a standpoint of continuity with obviously guys like the Arrow and Big Z. He's familiar with some of these freshmen that are coming over. He played with Billy Richmond in high school. He knows Coach Cal and several of the assistants. He was recruited heavily by Kenny Payne. There's a family dynamic. It just makes so much sense there. And obviously he's visiting this weekend. But I want to throw this out there at you. We've talked a lot about his game and where he excels, where his shortcomings are, where he needs to improve, whatever. Here's the way I see it, and tell me if you follow me here. I feel like if you get a DJ Wagner on this roster, worst case, you have a guy who has played a full season in the SEC under Cal, takes some pressure off Boogie Fland, who might ultimately become your stud. Like DJ would be a hell of an insurance policy as Boogie Fland gets acclimated, right? No doubt. The flip side to that, though, is you have a healthy and improved and more comfortable DJ Wagner, a former top prospect and NBA lottery pick potential guy coming out of high school, who blossoms and takes that leap from freshman to sophomore year. After all, he still had a solid freshman season, all things considered. If Wagner makes that leap and kind of reaches his potential, you have a lethal backcourt combo there with him and Nelly, and then Boogie becomes that much more dangerous because there's just no pressure on his shoulders at all. Or, you have a solid SEC experienced guard who's grooming the Burger Boy Frosh, and maybe Nelly Davis takes on even more of an alpha role right beside him. I just feel like either way it goes, if you add DJ, whether he makes that jump or he just kind of is what he is, you're in pretty damn good shape back there.
Yeah, I don't think he is what I don't think he is what he is right now.
Right.
Like
I agree.
You get him another season with Cal, and I reached out to a Kentucky writer. I don't want to give the goods away if DJ were to commit, because I've got a commitment analysis. Just the trigger finger is itching, just ready for that to happen. But yeah, Cal, if DJ comes to Arkansas, DJ is going to be a guy that Cal can really get on, and maybe push the buttons of a kid more so than maybe some others, because there's the family relationship there, and I just think that he knows what DJ's ceiling is, his potential is, and potential is a dangerous word. But I think it's clearly there. Like, everybody's saying that he had a bad season or a down season, didn't live up to the hype at Kentucky. He averaged like 10 and almost 3.5 assists a game.
Right.
It's really nice, and he was kind of nursing an ankle. The NCAA tournament game that he had, against Oakland. Obviously wasn't great. I would imagine that's sitting worse with him than anybody else.
Sure.
And so that's literally like you're as good as your last game type of deal. Like he went into the summer probably pretty pissed off.
Right.
And then, he's got hit the portal, and, a lot of teams are probably interested at least make like that, initial contact. But the relationship with Cal is there. Would be super interesting to see him here, because I think DJ is better. Like he could come in and just win that starting point guard job over a 5-star. Like he's that good. Like he can be that good.
I mean, he was a year ago what Boogie is now, except more highly rated.
Right. He's he's interesting, man. He really is. And one of the things that I got back from the feedback from a guy at the Lexington Herald Leader, he was the youngest guy on Kentucky's roster last year, but he was someone who the other guys on the team, despite him being, kind of the runt or the youngest guy on the team, like they listened to his voice and they looked to him for like leadership quality, like for leadership type stuff.
That's what you need in a point guard.
Which is exactly what you need in a point guard. And so it's interesting, like Arkansas's got this need for maybe another experienced ball handler. He's only played 1 year in the league, but I think if you add that experience with like the leadership attributes that he's got, I think you got a real win if you end up getting him on campus.
Yeah, I think so too. We know that he's visited USC already. Shout out to Muss for trying to make a push there. It also sounds like they're making a run at AJ Hogard out of Michigan State. And so it seems like they're really trying to add a lead guard there. It's just, no offense. I mean, it's no secret that I'm a Muss guy, have been. Sure. And even with the way it went down, I still wish him well. I'm not saying it's an impossibility by any means, because you never know. But it just would be really weird, in my opinion, to see DJ Wagner off to USC to play on that roster for Muss when the opportunity is there to do what he could possibly do at Arkansas with Cal.
It would be really weird because Eric doesn't recruit true point guards.
Also true.
I think that's one of the strangest things to me. Like he typically goes for, either a KK Robinson or a Jalen Tate type, and there's not just a ton of in between, or just like a natural combo guard, just as your lead ball handler. So yeah, DJ can score it obviously, and the scout. If you listen to any of these pods, like the scout is like, we understand what it is. Can go left. It hurts his efficiency a little bit with runners and tough floaters and stuff like that, but he can go either direction. It's just, you watch that college basketball scouting tape and all of his buckets driving the ball downhill or going to his left, it seems like. I think he can finish with both hands, and he's intriguing. He's super intriguing.
Get that 3-point shooting percentage up to, it doesn't have to be, he doesn't have to be a 40% shooter. Get it up to 33 to 35.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Just serviceable there from three, and he was a tick under 30% last season. And then I think you really, really have something to work with there.
He did shoot it well
against Arkansas.
Yes, he did, no doubt about it. He CBB Analytics, he shot 37% on top of the key threes. Okay,
he's going to be there a lot. So
yeah, he will be there a lot, initiating offense if he's on the floor, no doubt about it. So there's something to maybe to glean there, but just not a shooter at this point. Mm-hmm. Just not a shooter. I think he's best, initiating an offense in the half court. If transition opportunities are there, great. And then, just kind of I was told, really good point of attack defender can get a little bit distracted or sidetracked off the ball defensively, but there's a lot to work with.
And in fairness, it seemed like Kentucky's entire team had that problem. I mean, they had some great athletes who could keep the ball in front of them, but it was a little bit of a mess in terms of rotations and everything. So that's partly a true freshman who needs to grow up and get a little bit more understanding of a college system, but it's also a coaching staff problem of locking in on your guys. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on with Cal. But yeah, definitely, DJ, in my opinion, is the best lead guard still available in the portal. And I think by most services that's echoed, or he's definitely one of the top 2 to 3 there. So, I mean, listen, he's coming on a visit this weekend. We know how that's worked out for Arkansas so far. Eyeball emojis on Fayetteville over the weekend, and we'll see what happens there. Still work to be done, and we're going to talk about that here in just a sec. But before we do, I want to take a quick minute and tell you guys about our friends over at Signature Bank. Signature Bank is a privately held boutique bank that's redefining the banking experience in our region. They blend the warmth and familiarity of a community bank with the sophistication of a commercial bank and the expertise of private banking to deliver unmatched levels of service. If you're looking for reasons to bank with Signature, there's plenty of them. They're personally invested, business-minded, community-focused, right-sized, and forward-thinking. Make sure you check out one of their Arkansas locations or hop over on the website and check them out, www.signature.bank, to learn more. Scottie, first of all, I hope a tornado doesn't come take us away while we're in the middle of this, because we're getting all these weird storm warnings that are starting to come through. I was reading something earlier. They were talking about gigantic hail potential. I don't even know what gigantic means, but I don't know. Like, we're up here on the 6th floor. I don't know.
I don't know, man. It's been weird. I was getting emails earlier from daycare like, hey, yeah, we're monitoring the tornado situation. That's probably most prominent from like 3 to 8.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we're going to be doing this from 2 to 3, and didn't exactly want to leave the building just yet.
Exactly.
So, yeah, just keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens here. Let's talk about the 4 spot, because I think that power forward position is an important one for Arkansas. It feels like, to me, this is the other place where Arkansas is primed to make an impact addition before they just kind of round out the roster with some depth, which we'll talk about in a few minutes here. First of all, we're going to talk about 2 guys in particular. There are probably more than a half dozen really high-quality names at this position that we could be talking about. But I think as it relates to Arkansas right now, most of the buzz as of today, Wednesday, May the 8th, it's really surrounding 2 guys. I mean, it's South Florida's Kason Pryor, and all of a sudden, it's Illinois' Coleman Hawkins. Before we start this debate, let's go ahead and acknowledge that this is a hell of a problem to have.
Absolutely.
As if we're about to debate, who's the better fit or whatever between these 2 guys, you can't go wrong either way. You really can't. I honestly do believe that either one of them would be really an excellent fit for the mix that Arkansas has right now.
Yep.
So we'll see. Let's start, Scottie, with Coleman Hawkins. He's an interesting cat, man. There's more that comes with Coleman Hawkins than basketball. Little bit of a unique personality, and I think it would be fun for us in terms of media coverage and interviews and PR and everything like that. He'll talk to you a little bit.
Yeah, he says what he's thinking.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Was interesting to me because my mindset has changed on Coleman Hawkins a lot the last couple of days, because initially when he entered the portal, I thought, well, he's also a guy who's in the draft. He's just keeping his options open. I think he's going to go pro. The further along we get, the more likely it seems that he might make a return to college. Well, then I was thinking, yeah, but he probably just would go back to Illinois. But the further along we get from that, it sounds like there's a real possibility that he could be back in college and playing somewhere else next year. Some great reporting by Matt Norlander on the Eye on College Basketball podcast yesterday. Arkansas is in there. They're thick in the mix with Coleman Hawkins, and we've got that confirmed now. They're pursuing this dude, and other schools, North Carolina, I would say, would be the other big one to keep eyes on there. Obviously, Armando Bacot's gone. They missed on Cliff Omoruyi. They need a big man, a forward. Maybe they try to go with the hybrid type. They probably got plenty of NIL, blue blood program. Keep your eyes on North Carolina. Schools like Louisville, Kansas State have been mentioned as being a factor there. I just get a feeling like a guy like Coleman Hawkins, especially after the year he had last year at Illinois, if he's going to come back to college, it's going to be 2 things. One, and probably in this order, a bag that he's going to command hefty NIL, and 2,
Absolutely.
a shot, a reasonable, realistic shot at a Final Four. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure other schools are going to try to get involved. A lot of schools have used up all their NIL by now. But I wonder if this winds up coming down to being an Arkansas versus North Carolina kind of deal. And it would be very interesting. Long story short, I like Coleman Hawkins. He's got big game experience. He comes across to me as maybe a little bit more polished than prior when it comes to being able to flow within an offense, making reads, getting to his spots and to his shots, quite frankly, organically. We've both heard some interesting things about Coleman Hawkins in terms of the past of his motivation, his attitude, whatever, work ethic. But it's kind of hard to deny, especially looking at the numbers, the strides that he made this past season.
I mean, he had his best season in college by a mile last season. 6'10", 225 that shoots 37% from deep on volume is crazy.
That's, yeah,
and
I like that a lot.
Like you mentioned on the last pod, too, that, you know, we were watching that pre-Arkansas, Illinois NCAA tournament practice, and he's working with the wings and the guards, and, you know, he's acting as a ball handler in some – he's working as a handler in some ball screen actions. Like, that's not normal at 6'10". But he's a guy that can initiate. He's a guy that can spot up. He's a guy that can be a pop man or a roll man. Like, his versatility it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It really is. And then defensively, super switchable. Like, we keep mentioning, like, he doesn't have the cinder block feet type of stuff. Like, that's him too. Pretty active hands. Like, he raked, you know, you look at KenPom, he was in that national ranking in block and steal percentage.
Right.
You know, I would like him a lot more, you know, if he was a little bit more heavy on the glass, but he still had his moments, you know, where he'd get on the offensive glass or the defensive glass and make a real impact there. But yeah, he's just, and I don't think you can understate that he was a really big piece on a Big Ten championship team.
Yes, that made the Elite Eight.
That made the Elite Eight. Yeah, that's a really big deal. And he's, no, he might be looking for something a little bit better than third option on a really good team. He comes here, he might be the second option.
He might be the second option. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I think that they would be able to run a lot of different stuff through him.
Yeah.
I really do love his versatility. And, yeah,
you could do some inverted ball screen stuff with him and Nelly.
Oh, yeah. It'd be nasty work.
Crazy.
Nasty work.
Yeah.
I would love to see it. Yeah, I mean, his three-pointers last season, percentage and volume, just skyrocketed from where they were. And that was kind of the thing about him. Like, it was always, you really love the idea of what he could be and the potential, but that's all it was at the time was idea and potential. We started to realize that this season. He was a sub 30% shooter from three, for his first 3 years of college basketball, and now all of a sudden he really takes off there, and he's making them a good volume. That's a game changer in terms of spacing. Arkansas needs that right now. If there's kind of one thing about this roster that you wonder about, it's how much perimeter shooting they have. They have some. It's not a dog poo shooting roster by any means, but where are they going to be able to space the floor at certain positions? He could do that. His free throw went way up in terms of his efficiency there. His offensive rating skyrocketed. His turnover rate was cut down drastically. It was 22.7% last year.
Ridiculous.
That's nuts. and he cut that thing down a lot. So really made a lot of strides there. I'm all for it. Hawkins, like we said, he's got some stuff to him. He's got a little bit of swag to his demeanor. I got to be honest though, Scottie, like to transition to Pryor, Kason Pryor's got some shit to him that just entices me, man.
Yeah.
With him, Arkansas, Villanova, Louisville, St. John's, we're hearing is in the mix there as well. Maybe he's not as polished, and maybe he hasn't done it over the course of several years or at as high of a level as Coleman Hawkins has, even though the AAC is no slouch of a league.
Right.
But he strikes me as a guy who's got a little bit more alpha to him, and he might be a wild card, but I feel like that makes him dangerous. He looks like a dude to me who is hungry and who is not like ready for a challenge, but he's seeking out a challenge. There's just something about Pryor, man, that I really, really like.
I think he's so much of an unknown in college basketball that he's still, like you mentioned, he's still hungry to prove himself, because he had his breakout season at the D1 level last year. But he probably thinks like his numbers and his impact on the game still could have been better. I found this morning, I was finishing up his commitment analysis just in case that ever happened. And I went to his KenPom game log, found a 29-point, 5-block, 5-steal game that he had back in January. And I listened to, yes, that's nuts, dude. Listened to Amir Abdurrahim talk about him post-game, and he was like, coaching him is like having a Swiss Army knife in the wilderness. And he's like, you need to eat, you get your knife out, you skin that fish, you cook it, all that. You need to start a fire. You got something else that you can use to do that. When he's engaged defensively, mixed with what he brings on the offensive end, he changes any team that he plays for. He really does. And he's kind of like KD is his favorite player. And there's like, I'm not saying this kid's Kevin Durant, but look, KD sometimes, and trust me, I watched a lot of Phoenix Suns basketball to my mental detriment last year. KD gets a slower-footed matchup on him in deep water, and he's attacking it. Casey Pryor does the same stuff. Right. He really does. He takes full advantage of like slower-footed guys who are just not comfortable being, out on the perimeter. Really good downhill driver, can shoot it. Defensively, like I just mentioned, he had a 5-block, 5-steal game. It's not normal. Yeah. It's not. And it's crazy. Like, he's got pro potential. And he was a guy that like he played like 52 minutes in 2 seasons at Boise and then had to go JUCO. Yeah. He's different. Yeah. He really is.
I agree with you, man. And it's interesting because in a lot of ways, Hawkins and Pryor are very similar in terms of what they can do. Like they're both versatile on the defensive end. They can both shoot it. They can both put it on the floor. They do things that guys their size typically aren't able to do. Yeah. It was kind of funny. Today I got on BartTorvik.com, which is an analytics site, KenPom-ish. We talked about it before, but I was using their roster cast feature. And what they do is essentially every time any team in the country adds a piece, they put them on the roster, and they've just kind of got it projected out like, what it might look like in terms of where they fit in the rotation, what their offensive rating would project out as, and then how it impacts the team compared to everybody else relative to the rest of the country. And it's a little skewed right now. Like Arkansas is a little bit lower than they obviously will be just because they've only got 7 guys, and this is a top 10 rotation projection. And so it's got Arkansas 51st in the country. You give them 10 players, they're going to be a lot higher than that, whatever. Okay, so they were sitting at 51st, and I went through, and if you add Casey Pryor to the roster, Arkansas moves up 16 spots just by adding Casey Pryor. Wow. If you take him off, go back to 51st, and you add Coleman Hawkins to the roster, Arkansas moves up 17 spots.
Wow.
So that's like, we talk about the similarities and the projected impact. That's analytically. Good stuff right there. Yeah. It's right there. It's almost exactly the same. Yeah. And so I ask you, and especially since we've got it on our graphic here, Coleman Hawkins or Casey Pryor, the easy answer is either. Yeah. But if we had to pick, where would you go? If you could have either to add to this team, would you go with Pryor or Hawkins?
I would go with Casey Pryor. I say that understanding that it's difficult to, like, if you had your pick, go against the guy who's, gone to an Elite Eight and won a Big Ten title at Illinois. Like, it's tough. I don't know. I feel like there still is some unknown with Casey Pryor. Yes. Because he's only proven himself. I don't even know if you can say that you've proved yourself on the college level if you just played 1 year. He didn't even make the tournament, so we didn't get to see him in that setting before. We've seen Coleman Hawkins in the NCAA tournament several times now. I just think Case and Pryor solves so many different things. Can shoot it, 35% clip. One of the things that I really like that I haven't even mentioned yet was he was top 30 in the country in defensive rebound percentage. And so he's going to get on the glass. But I wonder, and it's not an apples to apples comparison in terms of, you know, guys getting on the glass, because it's tougher to get on the boards in the Big Ten than it is in the AAC. Understand that. I think he's got an edge to him that I really like.
Yes.
And then I'm sure Brad Underwood has said some really glowing things about him, but Amir Abdur-Rahim saying what I said earlier about Case and Pryor, coaches don't just say that stuff.
Right.
For the hell of it. They don't. I think, and this is not like really, it's not really a shot at Coleman Hawkins. I think he's enjoyed the spring already a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think there's like a diva quality might be a little bit too harsh, but I think there's maybe a little bit of that there. And I think Case and Pryor's just hungry.
Right.
Might be a little bit less proven. Obviously, he's less proven. But I think there's a hunger and an edge to Pryor that I really like. And if you get it, I don't think you can go wrong with either one, but I don't think that you would be upset in the slightest if you did get Pryor.
I think we're pretty much on the same wavelength. If you add Coleman Hawkins to this roster, it's going to resonate loudly throughout the country.
Yeah.
When it comes to, you know, hype and expectations and way too early top 25s and everything like that, more so than it will Pryor. I wonder, and don't be mistaken, I'd love to have either one of them. Coleman Hawkins, is he a finished product? Maybe he just is what he is now. Maybe he's already reached his ceiling as a college basketball player, which is a hell of a college basketball player that can make a major, major impact on Arkansas next season. Don't get me wrong. Sign me up for it. I'm in. Case and Pryor, though, it's not necessarily the case. Maybe he's a guy who hasn't reached his potential. Maybe he's still kind of scratching the surface. Maybe there's more room for growth for him. And I think with Case and Pryor, it strikes me as a floor for him, maybe somewhere around the Grant Nelson impact at Alabama. He might be a little bit ready for it to translate right away because, as you mentioned to me in a separate conversation last night, the AAC is probably a better league than the Summit. So he's, you know, in terms of the athletes that you're going to see, he might be a little bit more prepared for that now. Yeah. But, man, if you got Grant Nelson type of production out of Case and Pryor, you'd love it. But what is his ceiling? Because you're right. There's something about him. He's got an edge to him. He's got some alpha to him. And your ceiling might be higher, even though he's more of an unknown, if you add a guy like that to the roster. So I think, you know, gun to my head, I might lean Pryor too. If you told me, no, sir, that's not happening, you're getting Coleman Hawkins, I'd say, great. Looking forward to another second weekend run to the NCAA tournament at minimum. So, yeah. I mean, I'm cool with it either way.
Who seems like the Cal take of the two?
Coleman Hawkins.
Yes.
Honestly. Yeah. I'm glad you asked that question because that's relevant here.
I think there was somebody in the chat was like, I just have a feeling that if Pryor was Cal's first choice, we'd already have him. And, you know, Cal's going to wait out the NBA draft process for some of these. I would imagine for somebody at the very least.
That's like everybody operates on their own timeline. And what I will say about Cal in the past is he's on his own timeline too. Like he's not in a hurry for anybody. We saw that last year. I mean, this time last year, he was still at Kentucky. They had fewer players on that roster then than Arkansas does now. He wound up not getting Trey Mitchell until later in the summer after Bob Huggins was driving around Cincinnati drunk or whatever he was doing and got fired. But that's a good point to consider. And I think the other part about it that makes you wonder is like it's been a pretty quiet recruitment with Pryor. Not a lot of publicized visits. He doesn't talk much. Info has been a little bit more challenging to come by. Who knows where he's really at in the process? He might be ready to pop today.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I've reached out to like 4 or 5 different people about Pryor. Nobody will talk about him.
It's crazy.
I just got sent a link to a story that's on USF's website.
Great.
That's it. Great. So the intel out there is kind of hard to pick up other than, you know, just watching his tape.
Yeah, of course. Well, I will say again, just to backtrack one more time, Arthur Kaluma, Vin Allen Lubin, Dylan Mitchell, JT Toppin. There's still a lot of starter quality options out there beyond just these two guys. And if Arkansas wanted to roll, if they felt great with the Dude Thiero as their 4 and going a little bit more small ball, and they wanted to really, really amp it up with the Wooga Poplar and go with a heavier guard lineup, there's a lot of options right there now. But I will say, right this moment, I feel more confident than not that Arkansas will wind up with one of these two guys when it's all said and done. Would I bet on it? I don't know. Maybe. I consider it. Maybe we could do a friendly wager on BroThr.
How about that? Yeah.
Scottie, how about that? If you bet on sports like I do and you're tired of paying the juice to bet through a sports book, we partner with a new social sports betting company called BroThr here at Natty State Sports. I use BroThr directly to bet with other people on fair terms. I bet you $10 to win $10, as opposed to if you're confused about the lines and how they work and the odds and betting $11 to win $10 or whatever it may be. It's a little bit simplified, and it's an opportunity to do that with your friends. BroThr is legal in all 50 states. It's free to sign up. You got to be 18 to get an account. Pays even money on BroThr. Bettors create and accept bets directly with each other instead of paying more to bet against the house. Sign up at BroThr.com/natty. Connect your payment. You can use accounts like Venmo, Cash App, whatever, and get started betting right away. Cool new service. We're excited about partnering with them. Make sure that you guys get over there. Check it out. Okay. Scottie, my next question for you, brother, and then we'll hop over to the chat after we talk about this. Some interesting stuff from that podcast, the Ion College Basketball podcast. We pub it here quite a bit. Norlander and Gary Parrish, they do a good job. Norlander hinted that an incoming interview between John Calipari and Dennis Dodd, a story was set to come out here pretty soon. But one thing he said about that interview that he heard was that Cal told Dodd, hey, I might only have 8 or 9 players this year. We got a couple guys we're working on here. We might only have 8 or 9. That would essentially mean they add DJ Wagner and one of these forwards and they're done.
Yeah, there are 7 scholarship guys right now.
Yeah. I personally am buying that in terms of that might be the end of the impact additions, but you got to have some insurance policies. I think Arkansas gets to 10 or 11 scholarship guys.
Yeah.
With the last couple pieces being depth, and you got to have it. I think personally that there is a need and some importance to even if you get DJ Wagner to go get a 4th guard, right? Because if you're dealing with, let's say, Wagner, Fland, Nelly Davis, sure, that works in terms of the rotation for the most part.
Yeah.
But again, like your rolled ankle, a stubbed toe, flew away from really being in a bind. I think they need to go get a guy. You can never have too many bigs. Even if, let's say, you add a Hawkins or a Pryor who could play the 4 or the 5, whatever. You got Big Z, you got Adu. Still, you probably want to go out and get another forward as an insurance policy. We've been looking at the transfer portal. It's thinning out. Still a lot of good options there, but it is thinning out. So we wanted to kind of take some time and go through and see if maybe we could find, I don't know, some hidden gems maybe, or just some dudes who kind of would fit the mold of what you're looking for that you could fill out the roster with. If we say, let's say Arkansas ends up with Wagner and either Pryor or Hawkins or one of those impact 4-men,
right.
How could they fill this thing out? And the whole point of this exercise for people who are going to hear some of these names and be like, what the hell are these dudes talking about? You got to be realistic about it. It's got to be guys who will accept a role. It's got to be the right fit. It's got to make sense. We can't just go to the next best player and say, oh, well, if they pay him this much money in NIL, he'll come and understand he's not going to play.
Yeah.
That's not really how it works. Let's start with the guards who kind of fit as that 10th man type. There ain't many of them. I feel like there's better options in the front court than there are in the back court. Is there anybody in particular maybe that stood out to you? I know we were looking at this for half the day today.
Yeah, I got tired of looking at it.
Yeah, me too.
I really did. And this, when I say this kid's name and where he played ball, people are going to think I'm trolling, but I'm not. I'm not. Kid named Latrell Reed. He plays at St. Peter's.
You're trolling, bro.
6'3", 185. He was on the St. Peter's team that beat Kentucky in the NCAA tournament 3 years ago.
Familiarity, okay.
But he did not play.
Oh.
Didn't play. You know, like there are guys every offseason who you can just look at a roster and be like, he's, you know, maybe just hitching a ride along for the ride. Last year, that was, you know, no shade. It was Denaja Harris. It felt like that.
Sure.
Last year, because he marfoed or witted back to Southern Miss recently, and so it was just like he hopped on and, you know, was kind of just, let's see where this thing goes. But Latrell Reed is like, he can play a little bit. Like if you needed him to, he's 45th nationally in assist rate last season. He had a 17 assist game last year.
17?
He had 15 and 17 assists against Manhattan. And he had 11 assists in another game against Manhattan. He tore your Jaspers up. 35% from three, low volume. He's inefficient inside the 3-point line, and you kind of wonder, like, if there's a guy that's been putting up those numbers at a smaller school, like if he would take a lesser role. But he's a New Jersey kid.
Yeah,
he's a Jersey kid. So there's like the Northeastern type ties with Cal potentially, and he is aware that St. Peter's exists. So
right, yeah, there you go. One guy that kind of caught my attention right away because I recognized the name is Joseph Yasufu.
Yeah.
And he was at Washington State last year, but this is a dude, he started for 2 years at Drake on some good Drake teams. And then he spent 2 years at Kansas in the exact role that Arkansas would need him for.
That's a good pull.
And he was a backup point guard who played between 9 and 12 minutes per game. On a national championship team at Kansas, and then he was on that team that lost to Arkansas in the second round a couple years ago. Then he transferred to Washington State this past year, got injured, hurt his hip, and sounds like he could have returned, but he'd only played in 6 games, and it was a deal where, you know, you can only play in 30% of your games and still get a med shirt and get your season back. So he's got his season back.
Did you say a med shirt?
Yeah, medical red shirt.
Love that.
Yeah, and so he's got a year of eligibility left, and it's just a dude who's already accepted that role, sacrificed for the team. Could be a dude who has the exact experience that you're looking for, and you know would probably thrive with that type of experience. And it's a dude who, look, he's not going to be a baller by any means, but if somebody goes down, he can help you, and he's got a lot of experience, and he's not going to hurt you out there. And he had his second year at Drake was really good. He averaged over 12 points per game. And he had his moments when he was at Kansas. I think he would have wound up having a pretty good season at Washington State. He was off to a decent start there. And that was a Washington State team that wound up making the NCAA tournament without him.
That's right, yeah.
Even. And he was expected to be an important piece there. So, again, not the sexiest name in the world, but it's something that would make sense for a back end, you know, depth piece, if that's what he's looking for at this point. Some of those guys might look to transfer back down to a mid-major and you know have bigger roles or whatever. But if you want to be part of something that's greater than yourself, and he's shown the willingness to do that and thrive in that role before, why not?
Yeah, that's a good call. I vividly remember watching him against Howard, I think a couple seasons ago. I think when we were waiting on the Arkansas-Illinois game to start.
Right.
It's just that's a great pull.
Thank you.
The only other name that I had, and I don't think it's realistic at all, is Shaq Moore.
I wrote him down too.
Do you think I don't think he's realistic, because I think he thinks that like his career to this point probably warrants more than a set role.
Yeah.
But
he played 25 minutes a game at Mississippi State last year.
Yeah. But he's got like all the toughness stuff that you would want. I think he's not a blow you away point guard. But he could get you into stuff, and then he could, defend a little bit for you and all that. But I think he's above like that fourth guard role, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of think so too. A guy that I saw who I feel the same way about was Khalil Brantley out of LaSalle. Mm-hmm. He's a Bronx kid, so you immediately think about Cal's connections up there. Has been really good in the A-10 at LaSalle, strikes me as a guy that's probably looking to maybe transfer up and get a larger role. I don't know if he'd want to take a back seat kind of deal. But yeah, I mean, I went through Kadir Copeland out of Syracuse, bigger guard, but was a pretty solid role player for them. A name that's somewhat interesting to me, and people will throw it away right away, but Andrew Taylor, who was transfer at Mississippi State, didn't play that much.
Yeah, he got dismissed late last year.
Wound up leaving the team, and I don't know what the circumstances around that were. But he was a dude who averaged like 20 points per game the year prior at Marshall, and it was a big deal when Mississippi State got him. And I don't know if that's like a buy low kind of guy. It would depend on why he left the team. I really don't know what the case was there. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty thin with those veteran ball handler types. I mean, there's some dudes out there, maybe like wing defenders, who I like, and are like Mawat Mag out of Rutgers he's a great defender, and he's still out there. Obviously, those Northeast connections, it makes you wonder. But yeah, I do think they need to go get a guard. KK Robinson, I don't know.
I saw this guy, Keon Menafield.
I've heard
played
of him.
his freshman season at Washington. It was kind of intriguing. Didn't play just a whole lot last season. If you need some locker room vibes, he's your guy.
There you go. Yeah,
you just play his EP.
Yep, some good mixtape action there. What about the bigs?
Case and Pryor.
Yeah, it's slim pickings out there.
I wrote down Musa Cisse.
Yes. I like the idea of Musa Cisse, and I've heard some rumblings that because that dude has just been all over the place.
He has.
That in terms of eligibility, I can't remember where I read this, but that he might only be able to go back somewhere. He might only be able to morpho to Memphis or to Oklahoma State because of credits.
Yeah.
I don't know that for sure, though.
Or could he withdraw and go back to Ole Miss?
I guess he could. Yeah, I guess he could if they want him to do that.
So it's only Marfo?
Only Marfo action. But if that's not the case, and the NCAA approves anything nowadays, but just having a huge body who can come there and protect the rim in a pinch, if he's still expecting a large role at this point in his career, he's probably getting some bad advice, just frankly.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, he's been one of the best shot blockers in the country.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I guess, not so much last year, but, Memphis, Oklahoma State.
Right.
He was pretty solid if you looked at his block percentage on KenPom.
We both thought we stumbled onto something earlier today when we saw Julius Marble's name in there. Julius Marble, who 2 years ago was he was a bruiser, man, for Texas A&M, and he was playing in tandem with Henry Coleman, and he was just an absolute load.
Kind of
offensive
a slightly
rebounder,
smaller Henry Coleman.
Yeah, exactly. It was really a nice player, and I was thinking, man, as a role playing big, that would be awesome. He didn't play for Texas A&M this past year. I assumed he was injured. Turns out that he was arrested and charged with sexual assault, so that's not going to happen. So moving on from that one that's interested me, and we've talked about him in the past. He's on, I think, the backside of this board maybe, is Kajani Wright. And we know how Cal feels about McDonald's All-Americans, and Kajani Wright is a former McDonald's All-American. He visited Arkansas in high school. He ultimately chose to stay close to home, Sierra Canyon kid, and played at USC, and it just hasn't clicked in 2 years. Big fella, 6'9", 230 pounds.
Man, maybe just because we're not on the ground, I just don't understand why.
I don't either, and I don't know if it was because they were giving his minutes to some of the other guys that they had there, and he was behind them. If he just needs a change of scenery, or does he just stink? I don't know. But if he was a 5-star, top 5-ish level prospect for the longest. He slipped a little bit when it was all said and done, but was still a burger boy. So there's got to be something there. And I think you either take guys who have just been career role players who will just accept it in this kind of role that we'd be looking for, or you take guys who, it just hasn't worked out for, and it's like, not last chance but change of scenery, and Worst case, you get kind of what you're looking for, which is a dude who can help you out if you're really in a pinch, or he kind of blossoms and winds up being a little bit more than you thought he could be. So,
how about Lance Ware?
How about Lance Ware?
That would be a play for a coach, Marfo.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely would. Lance Ware, who played a couple years at Kentucky and then transferred out of there. He was at Villanova last year. Another guy who, man, people thought he was going to be a one and done type of dude, and it just never clicked for him. I thought he was going to have more opportunity than he did at Villanova last year.
He almost feels like he gets in and one foul and he's done.
Yeah.
Because you can't trust him to not get in foul trouble.
Right. And so I think a guy like Lance Ware has one of two options now. It's you either take your medicine and you transfer down and go play at a mid-major and actually get some run and see if you can figure it out, flip the switch, or you understand that you are a, back into the rotation role player and you go somewhere and you try to win. So
you should try to make it work at Nova, dude. Nova guys are having their moment right now.
Yeah.
They really are.
No doubt, man.
I saw Counts commented just a second ago, don't like Lance Ware. I'm somewhat in that boat. Like, if Arkansas got him, I would see it through or whatever on the surface. We saw him in the Bahamas. Like,
right.
he had a couple moments there. He's just like, you know how we always talked about KK Robinson would play like 7 minutes and get 3 fouls?
Yeah.
Lance Ware is that.
Sure.
On the front as a front line guy.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather have great Osabor, but you're not going to get him. So, like if it's your 4-string big, then, this is kind of the guys that you have to look at here. But I agree. Like, I would take some of these other dudes we've talked about over Lance Ware, I think. Has Hog Killer Josh Gray signed somewhere yet?
He is not. No. I mean, that is a body, dude.
That's a large man.
He's big.
You remember when we were at the SEC tournament in Nashville and we had just finished working? We covered the overtime Vanderbilt game, got all our writing and everything done. And before we went back to the Airbnb, we popped over to Shake Shack to get some food. And big Josh Gray was in there putting down some burgers. South Carolina big man.
Sitting in that table like this, looking at his phone.
Exactly.
Didn't want to be seen putting down a double smash.
He is a large human being. So I'm not 100%. He's listed as available on the On3 transfer rankings. Some that's not entirely up to date. So I don't know if he's gone anywhere. But
there were several guys today that were, and I get it. There's a lot. There's so
2,000 kids, man.
Yeah,
I couldn't keep up with it. Yeah.
So many guys today that I was like, this guy's still available?
Yeah.
And I look into him, and I would say that he's not committed somewhere, according to like On3's database or whatever, and they'd either returned to school or, had done whatever.
We thought the original brick shithouse right over your left shoulder was still available on Alex Williams. Yeah. According to that, and we got excited, and it turns out he Duquesne?
Committed to Duquesne.
Yeah,
and
so
LeBron's boy Drew Joyce.
Right. Yeah, right. Oh man, did you have any other bigs? I wrote down Baba Miller.
Okay.
Out of Florida State. I don't know what he's looking for, but he was fairly productive.
I almost said his name earlier today because you get bored in the office, you just kind of randomly make noises. Yeah. Baba Miller's a pretty good noise to make.
Baba Miller.
Just out of nowhere. But he's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't have any other. I think Lance. I didn't even write Lance. I had Lance Ware in my mind. I didn't write him down, but he's kind of just intriguing to me because he knows the deal with Cal.
Sure. Agreed.
And like you mentioned, he might be on that last chance type of deal.
Right.
Because it didn't really work at Kentucky, didn't really work at Nova, it seemed like. You want to give it one more go around with a guy that, he can put guys in the pros, just, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. You know who'd have been better than all of them is Jordan Burks. Would have really been a great fit for what they're looking for. Jordan Burks,
today,
who was with Cal at Kentucky last year, didn't play a ton, had his moments, and he hit the portal, and immediately everyone was like, He's a hog. He committed to Georgetown today, and I don't blame him for that. I mean, he's going to go to Georgetown. He might start at Georgetown.
We literally talked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
It was like, you want to go somewhere and actually play?
Right.
Go to Georgetown.
Yeah. So I don't hate the kid for that.
Yeah.
And maybe you get the ultimate weird coaching Marfo. He goes there and kills it at Georgetown. They still stink. And he comes to Arkansas next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I felt like the longer that went on without him being committed, the more I was like, you know what? He's probably exploring his options to see where he can go play before he commits to being a, back of the rotation guy at Arkansas. So,
right.
Oh, well. Should we get to the comments?
Sure.
Get to the chat and then get out of here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in and hanging out with us today. It's good stuff. Let's see. H-Fan says it's point guard week. Yeah, I mean, it kind of is with Wagner and Darius Acuff coming in. Wagner, the immediate future, and Acuff, the year from now future.
Down maybe. The line.
Yeah, exactly. Acuff, for those who are unaware, 5-star point guard, the 2025 class. I think he ranks, number? I think as high as number 4, maybe. In the country, the number one point guard prospect.
Involved with a high school kid, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big one. That is a big one. Yeah, some people are blaming us being a little bit late on John. No, that was Andrew's fault. And I saw somebody else say, he's been done for 20 minutes. It's not that simple. Like you finish, you gotta get the audio for the MP3, you gotta upload the podcast format. He was sitting right here in the seat that I'm in until 3:59 or until 1:59. And then we had to walk in here and kick him out. So
yeah,
no, not really. And in complete fairness, we completely bumped his show on Monday with the Thiero commitment.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, he was a team player for that one.
Yeah, very much a team player. But it's
actually just to give you some more behind the curtain type stuff. While Curtis was he was putting the Thiero story online using his hotspot, and I was watching out for his walking well-being. I texted Ellis and was like, hey, do you mind if, we hop on or you start your pod a little bit later? And he was like 100%. Team player. Good man right there. Absolute good man. Stud. Maybe if Wagner pops while I'm in Kentucky, he might help you out. We never know. Yeah, we never know. But Solo Scottie doesn't worry us at all, says Kingsley. I agree. Solo Scottie worries Scottie. It shouldn't. It's more of a me thing than anything else. No, you dominate. The only thing I'm worried about with that is then people will be like, we actually realize we don't need Curtis anymore. That's major cat. And then all of a sudden it'll be, Ellis has got the baseball pod all by himself. Scottie's got the basketball pod. And then we're going to have our Monday morning staff meeting. Everybody's going to be looking at me through my forehead saying, oh, Curtis, I guess you're going to do the football pod? No, the only thing. And then I'm jumping out the window. The only thing I've got is the mustache, dude. That's it. Yeah, good on you for being able to keep that thing around. I already kind of miss it. I'm not going to lie, but it's whatever. Happy wife, happy life, or whatever they say. Yeah, I asked Mel yesterday if she liked it, and she was like, yeah, it's getting a little bit wild, but and then she just stopped talking. Yeah. So she didn't actually finish a thought. Okay, all right, well. But she's not telling me to get rid of it. Just for the record, John Hand says you need to add that Illinois kid to the board. There he is. The very top name on the board. We erased some idiot. They went somewhere else, and we wrote Coleman Hawkins in at the board before we started. He's there. Idiot. Believe the hype. Ooh, hold on. Okay. What do you think about that? Billy Richmond, Kelly Oubre 2.0. Wow. This is enough for me to think about. Yeah. I'm going to ponder on that one. I like that. I appreciate that. I don't have an answer right away, but yeah. It's, if we're ever at a local establishment and we have some time, we might have a thought or two on that one that we can bring back. I like the comps. I used to not be big on comps. Yeah. People would ask them for me all the time, and I'd be like, I don't know. This is a college kid. You're trying to get me to compare him to a dude who's in the league now. But the further we've gone on, the more I appreciate those. And I try to either that or try to compare him to a former Arkansas player.
which becomes harder and harder to do with the kind of the talent level that we're dealing with now.
No kidding.
But, so that's, that's interesting. Let's see here. We got a few people weighing in on Hawkins over Pryor over Hawkins, which I appreciate. It's good. John Hand, this is funny. I know what you're talking about here. He said Trilly, a.k.a. Matt, he's talking about Norlander, said he's considering the Hogs. I think he's talking about Coleman Hawkins. Who is Trilly Donovan? We don't know. There was a period of time, though.
He has missed on Jordan Burks.
He did miss on Jordan Burks.
From 4 weeks ago.
I, for a minute, thought it kind of made sense. Norlander being Trilly Donovan. I no longer believe that. I don't know who it is. One day he's going to have to reveal himself, though, and I can't wait. Cannot wait.
Yeah, it's great.
John also asked, when are you guys going to the EYBL?
Is that later this month?
Yeah, end of the month. I think it's May 26th through 28th. It's in Memphis. Me and Scottie are going to go spend at least a day checking out those guys. And I'm excited for it, man, because now that Cal started cooking on the high school recruiting trail, too, I mean, we'll be able to go watch. I can think of worse ways to spend my day than sitting in the gym watching a bunch of 5-stars who Cal's in there watching. So
no kidding.
Check those guys out. Get to talk to them a little bit. That'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, we're planning on doing that at the end of the month. So about less than 3 weeks from now. It'll be fun. Let's see. San Antone Joe says Acuff scheduled for a visit. How many point guards does Cal need? How many are too many? Well, he's a 2025 kid. So unless
he's down the line.
Yeah, unless he reclassed, that would be a year from now. But I do think they need one now, a.k.a. DJ Wagner. And then you probably, if it was me, I'd go get another veteran, like we talked about some of those guys, just in case. Insurance policies, man.
Yeah, always good to have. Thoughts on this? Let's be honest, Hawkins is a better Trevin Brazil.
Yes, Hawkins is what...
He is a 2 to 3x more fluid Trevin Brazil.
Yes. Yeah.
100%.
Agree with that. Do you think Pryor is more explosive than Coleman Hawkins?
Explosive.
Coleman Hawkins dunked a basketball 13 times last year.
13, that's it?
Yeah, that's it. I don't know how many times Pryor dunked a basketball. Coleman Hawkins, 6'10", athlete, dunked it 13 times.
Just, this could be my bias showing, but I feel like Pryor is.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I turn Hawkins tape on again, I might say the opposite. I don't know how many times Pryor put one down, but should I look that up real fast?
Yeah, you should look it up real fast. I'll keep on talking. But it just seemed like
this is why I can't go solo.
Yeah, in the limited amount of film that we've been able to watch, it just feels like when Pryor throws one down, like you feel it. You feel it. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, there's some authority, almost like some anger behind it, which I kind of appreciate. So
Pryor had 23.
Yeah. So there you go. Let's see. But yeah, that's Hawkins is definitely a better, more developed version of Brazil.
There's no doubt. That's why Coleman Hawkins, according to The Athletic, is the number 6 available transfer, and TB is not.
Yeah, there you go. Crazy stuff, by the way. Mr. Warlight here says Cason Pryor's an instant starter. I agree. So is Coleman Hawkins if you get him. Yeah. Either one of those guys. But it's very interesting that the differentiation in the ratings. Coleman Hawkins is unanimously a top 25 transfer.
Yeah.
If you look at like On3, for example, Cason Pryor's really high up there. He's one of the best guys still left available. I looked at the 24/7 rankings today, and he was outside the top 200.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So the Athletics got Hawkins at 6 and Pryor at 73.
Right. That's tough.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
tough. Be more than
stuff.
happy with either.
Yeah, exactly.
Happier with one.
Right. That's exactly right. Oh man. Well, I got to tell you, Scottie, we got to get out of here, brother. I got radio at 3:15.
Okay.
I mean, we've already gone for over an hour, but this has been awesome, man. So again, really appreciate everybody who's hopped on here, hung out with us. For Scottie Bordelon, it's been Curtis Wilkerson with United States Sports, and we will catch you guys real soon And we got some surprises coming for you right down the road. Thank